Hey everybody, Jake Perez here again with Onward, my weekly show dedicated to helping ordinary people live extraordinary lives. You can catch me live right here now on Thursday nights, 7 p.m. Central Time, as I speak with some of the world's most interesting people about a variety of topics, all dedicated to helping you change your life forever. My guest on the show tonight is both a good friend of mine and the inspiration for this show. This very charismatic and talented guy has achieved many things in his life, but he is currently known mostly as the creator and the host of the Marshal Gillen Show. Marshall, welcome to the
Hey,
show, my man.
what's going on, bro? Thank you so much for having me. I feel so esteemed. Some of the most interesting people in the world. I was like, you got the right guy on here? What's going on?
Absolutely, my man. You fall under that category. One of the most interesting guys out there, my man. And first thing, let me just say, truthfully, you really inspired me to do this show, man. Back in April, May, something like that. You're like, yo, you got to jam. You got to, get your stuff, jump online and go do it. And
Yeah.
that's where this show came from, man. So and
Well,
it's developed nicely. So I appreciate your inspiration, brother.
dude, I thank you so much for that, and that's very kind of you to say. And somebody as accomplished as you, and who's helped as many people in all the facets you've done, especially as an educator, that means a lot. But at the same time, I'm like, this is the cool thing is once we start to become these self-aware, self-evolved people, it's like, was it really me, or did you just manifest that like reflection of yourself because you were finally ready? And it's like, oh, you look out into your environment. Um, I don't think it's professional to have your lights in camera, is it? but but so I think that's really cool, man. But I think that's like kind of the concept of this whole show is about moving onward. It's like, how can we find that reflection? How can we become that person and look at our environment and find people who are doing what it is that we want to do, and then being like, you know what, heck with it. I'm just gonna try it. Like, I'm gonna try it. And like at the worst, and Jake, you've seen me fail so many times over the last couple of years. It's like at the worst, you're just gonna fail. And guess what? People are always worried, like, oh, what will somebody say? Man, they're not gonna say nothing. They'll still cheer you on. But
Right.
to see you crushing this, dude, is awesome.
Appreciate you, my man. And I mean, if you would, I mean, I know, like, I guess it was or somewhere around 2017 was the first time I picked up with you, and I saw, you started doing your lives every day, right? And you just were kind of like,
Yeah,
hey,
Marshall
you know,
Live.
Marshall Live, and you just decided it was just like a snap, right? You just decided, hey,
Yeah,
I need to change my life. You want to tell a little bit of that story real quick?
yeah, man. I was super blessed in that regard. So I was never doing anything really. Five-time college dropout. I was a career bartender for the most part. I've worked a ton of jobs, and I'll never forget. I was working this one bartending job. I was probably about 27 years old. I'm 36 now, and I'll never forget. I was waiting on this table, big family, really busy restaurant, and this guy at the end of the service, he came up to me, big old dude, and he put his hand out, and I shook it. And he says, "You're about the hardest damn worker I've ever seen." He's like, "I'm a rancher from Oklahoma." And he's like, "Thank you." And he walked in, had this big cowboy hat, and he walks away, and there's
Yeah.
$100 in my hand, $100 bill. And I was like, wow. I was so broke at the time. I went home, and
Hmm.
I remember just looking at that $100 bill being like, man, like how can I make that much money that quick again? And it was in that
Hmm.
moment, Jake, that I found the idea of, for the first time, I was like, oh, I've got to get more value for my time. I got to get more
Hmm.
value for my time. And so that was back before anybody was doing anything online. Instagram was like brand new, but
Hmm.
I just kind of thought there's got to be a way for me to use social media and and the mobile phone to be able to make money. Like, there's got to be a way to do it. And so literally like 8 years ago, I just started one thing after another and after another. But I never invested any time. I never really invested any money, none at all. And I never really knew what a mentor was. Like, I didn't know
Hmm.
any of that. And so
Hmm.
finally, I've been doing stuff for about 4 years, all on my own. And I was like one of those guys, one of those entrepreneurs who was perpetually stuck. Man, I'm starting my side hustle. Oh, I'm getting my side hustle. I was that guy for like 4 years. And there's nothing
Right.
wrong with that. But
Right. Right.
who wants to be stuck there? And so
Yeah.
finally, I'll never forget, Jake. It was June of 2016, and I was sitting on my bed in San Diego, California, and I saw this guy online, a video on Facebook. And it was this
Hmm.
guy going, "Oh, here in my garage, I'm with my Lamborghini." And you know what I like more than this? knowledge. And I was like, this guy's kind of a clown shoe. But obviously, he kept retargeting me,
Yeah.
and he finally got me. And I'll never forget this. It's so funny for me now, and I'm getting to the point of how I'm taking my chance here.
Yeah.
I never forget. Finally, he got. I watched this big long, which I know now is a webinar, but I didn't at the time. I watched this hour-long webinar, and
Yeah.
Ty Lopez got me to buy his 67 Steps program for $67. Now it was literally just a series of videos. That was all it was. And so I made the investment. I'll never forget. I was scared. I was like, I just spent $70 on videos. And I mean, I was amazed, and I felt like I was like, man, maybe I should return and get my money back, because I had never invested money in this personal development. I didn't know what it was. I watched those Ty 67 videos, and then on November 23rd, which is coming up, November 23rd, 2016, I got targeted with another webinar. Again, didn't know what it was at the time, and it was to buy a social media marketing agency course. $1,000. Okay, I didn't buy it the first time that he released it the month before. I saw these people crushing it. I was like, if it comes back around, I'm going to do it. I had $1,017 in my bank account, and I was like, heck with it, dude. I was like, it was like a Thursday or something. I was like, I bartend this week. I'll have some cash. I was like, I'm not going to tell my girlfriend though. I told her, girl. I told my girl. I just told her, all you guys don't hide that. So I spent the money, but it was like a burning the boats moment. And there was at the time there's only 36 videos in the course. I watched all of them, and I went out and closed my first deal. I made 1.5 times my ROI, 150 times my ROI back in 48 hours. And it was the moment that I was like, oh my gosh, I can make money on my own. And so I just started doing this thing because it was a skill that I knew could make me a lot of money. Now, here's the thing that I didn't know at the time, which is so weird. And that thing is like, it's not what I wanted to do. It was nothing I was passionate about, like none of that. But I didn't know any of that at the time. And so what I did is I rushed off into social media marketing agency. I was really, really good at closing clients and getting people to sign up. But I didn't want to do all the work, like all the little intricacies. Like, that's not me. And so what I realized I did is I created myself a job. And by month 2, I was outsourcing everything to people just to fulfill it, and I was not making very much of the money. And at the time I'd always wanted to be a speaker, a motivational speaker, but I was like, who am I? Like, I can't do that. Like, I can't speak. And so what had happened was all this had led up to the point where in March of 2017, I was at a consult getting ready to close another client, and I remember just staring through her, and I was like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I don't like this. Now, if you've heard me tell this story before, Jake, but it's like, I never forget that day, because I have to be honest, I think I was all hopped up on Gary Vee. I was like watching a lot of Gary Vee videos back then. And I was like, you know what? I was like, I want to be a speaker. Like, I want to do that. And so literally the video's up and stuff. I walk out in the sidewalk and I pull out my phone and I go live for the first time, like, yo, what's up? My name's Marshal Gillen. This is my journey to becoming a highly paid public speaker. I don't know if it'll work. I might fall flat on my face. I don't think I will, but I welcome you to join my journey. I have to go from broke to rich, nothing to something. This is for the 17-year-old me, but more importantly, it's to take away all of your excuses. And then literally all I did for the next, I have it now for about 1.5 years, about 2 years. But for the next 3 years, all I did was go live every day, every single day. Before StreamYard was like a thing, I was doing the dual lives. And that's how I built my brand. Like, people are I know it's a lot more work nowadays on social media to do it organically, but man, I'm telling you, we have a mobile phone and the internet. Like, in 3 years, me, a dummy, a 5-time college dropout farm kid, career bartender, some meathead, like, I will change my life. I live in a cabin in Montana, working online and like, definitely the foundation to my dream life, and now just scaling it. And I'm nobody special. And so it's like, I think that's the thing that's so inspiring, because for you to say that you're starting something for me, it's like, well, I got that seed from somebody else, the energy from somebody else. And so when you really start to talk about, for especially the listeners, which if you guys haven't subscribed to this yet, you guys definitely should. But it's like, for other listeners onward, it's like, that's conceptually what we're talking about. It's like, how do you just keep moving onward? And I know things that are scary and fearful, and it's like, you want to, well, maybe I should slow roll it and think about it. It's like, you know what? Like I started in the beginning of the show, I'm like, no, just go for it. I've changed a million different things. But the reason that I keep selling and I keep going forward is because the one thing that I've always done above all else is be me, share
Mm-hmm.
my story, what I'm really going through, and create my
Mm-hmm.
personal brand. And then from that brand, it's like you can do whatever as long as as long as you're good and constantly trying to get better, and as long as you're like being honest with your audience and trying to lead them through relatability and and empathy.
Mm-hmm. I love it, man. So you were, you were really an early adopter in this game. I mean, the online, the live thing, the Facebook Lives, and all that stuff's become really big. I mean, everybody seems like everybody's doing Facebook Lives all the time now. But I mean,
100%.
you jumped in the
Nobody
game
was doing it
early.
back then.
You jumped in
I
early,
tried to
man.
tell everybody, bro. I had that blue shirt that says I'm live,
I
and like
remember it.
it was a joke when I got it. It's like I said, I was like, I used to be out in the streets making those live videos, and people would come up and they'd get in my video or they'd ask me questions. And so I told
Hmm.
my then girlfriend at the time, I was like, I'm just gonna get a shirt that says I'm live, so people leave me alone. And
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
one day I was out on the beach, and I was wearing the shirt, and I was just like, "What's going on, everybody? Marshall live, and I am live." And and then Marshall live was just a thing, and it's been really interesting, dude, because I've gone to like events where like famous speakers, like much more. I'm nobody. Famous speakers are speaking, and they'll be like, I'll be in the front row, and I have my I'm live shirt on. They're like, "Oh, Marshall live. I am live." I'm like, are you
Dude,
kidding
that
me
was
right now?
Dude, that was
Um,
super poppin', man. I mean, that was,
yeah.
I saw some of those early videos and I watched all the time, man. And it was really, it was really different than what other people were doing. And like you say, you just developed into your own personal brand that way.
Yeah.
And,
I wish I could do it now, but I live in Montana, and
mm,
I barely have service at the cabin,
mm,
let alone anywhere away from it, which is a blessing and a curse because it's like I feel
mm,
like I'm at a point in my life where I want to be able to give more, but I'm
right,
also like I know that I'm like I don't even want. What am I talking about? Like I want to unplug and be in nature with my friends and
right,
and
right.
find and yeah. So it's weird, but
Yeah. Hey, and how about, I mean, your story starts with Lopez, right? I mean, hey, what's up? I'm here in my garage. I mean, how
yeah.
many bazillions of people both saw that video and got retargeted and all that kind of stuff?
Oh, dude,
Um,
so many.
yeah. So I mean, I mean, really, and what I love is that, you're an action taker, man. I mean, that's you know you got a lot of different skills, but that's probably one of the biggest things that I see is you just like get an idea and you just jam on it, man.
I'm just like, whatever, let's go. And I know that it may not be the best way, but the thing that I've always like, and maybe it could just be me totally justifying it to myself, but I'm always like, I was actually just talking with this girl the other day, and she was kind of giving me a hard time. She was like, I want to support you, but like, I don't know what you're doing. And I just said, yo, like, I just speak out loud what's going through everybody's head. Like everybody's going like, but nobody's just saying it, and that's okay. Like I'm not telling you you have to, but
Hmm.
the only thing I've always wanted to do, and what I'm realizing Marshall Gillen's like role is in this go around is like I'm just supposed to create space for people and give them permission to get started. Because even
Hmm.
when it doesn't work out, I've lived a very public life. I went through a very weird breakup
Yeah.
last year. It was very
Yep.
public and it gross. And
Mhm.
like and most people will be like, oh, like that's bad. And I'm like, this is real life. And so what? Like other people are really going through this. I posted a pretty vulnerable post in my group today. I was talking about some thoughts I was having yesterday I hadn't had in a long time. And people are like, damn, that's raw, bro. But like, thank
Mhm.
you because I've thought that too. And so it's nothing like, oh, who like I'm special. It's just, my thing is storytelling. I'm like, I just want to save the world through vulnerability and storytelling. And
Mhm.
people always go, well, how do you transform people? Like I'm not who was Marshall Gillen, but how could you create all that transformation? And I'm
Yeah.
like, because I create influence, and the best way to create influence is through relatability. And the best way to be relatable is to
Mhm.
say, hey, like make fun of yourself first. Like Joe Rogan, for example. You know why people love Joe Rogan? Because he goes hard on himself all the time. And he's very humble, but he knows what he's doing, of course. But like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's why he's one of the, like, that's why it's so relatable is because he just says it how it is. And not like in a, kind of a D head way, like maybe the, like president, but,
Right.
so it's not just like saying what you want, but
Right. 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 No, I mean it comes down to vulnerability, right?
yeah.
I think, and a lot of people, not to get, I don't like to get too super political here, unless Marshall, Gillen runs for president in 2024, then I'm gonna start getting real political. But other than that, I mean, in this last election, everybody's at each other's throats, and Republicans and Democrats and wherever people are, whatever. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think we're all human, and we all are more alike than what we are different, right? I mean, we're
Oh,
all like,
100%.
I mean, we all wanna laugh, we all cry,
Yeah.
we all want to be loved. We all want a lot of the same stuff, and
Yeah.
so I think a lot of times on social media, people are putting this thing out there. I mean, whatever Lopez was doing, but there was a thing for a while. If you want to be an entrepreneur online, go stand in front of a Lambo and take some pics, or go find a jet and take some pics in front of a jet. But you've been the kind of guy who's like, hey man, you're right. Your breakup was very public, and even before that, you've talked about issues with your stepfather, and issues with suicide, suicide attempts and things like that. And I just think that's how we help people, right? It's like,
Yeah.
look,
Yeah.
we're not perfect. We got issues, we got problems, we cry, we have pain, and it's okay. And when
Yeah.
we are our true selves, then people can relate to that, I think, and
Well,
that's why you're so
100%.
relatable, man.
Well, it's just like I appreciate that. It's what you're absolutely right though, and that's why the world is so angry right now. It's because there's
Hmm.
so many people that are hurt, right? Like
Hmm.
I always tell my audience, it's like anger is just a proactive emotion to being hurt. So it's like
Hmm.
whatever hurt you in the past the
Mm.
very first time, so you never have to feel that again. You subconsciously have these triggers where you'll lash out in anger. That way, it's your ego protecting yourself. It's survival, fight or flight. I'm going to be
Mhm.
angry because I don't feel validated. I don't feel like I am accepted. I don't feel loved. But once you really
Mhm.
start doing a deep inner work and personal
Mhm.
development, you're going to
Yep.
find that like all those things come from within us, right? And like this, but it's like it all comes from within us, and it's just so interesting because once we really dive into it, they realize that their external reality is
Mhm.
literally a mirror. It's literally a direct reflection of your thoughts and feelings. And I don't want to get too out there with like too, but like quantum physics proves that the law of attraction is a thing. It's an energy. It's not a weird thing. It's
Yeah.
just energy. It's just science. And so what you put out really does come back. And people don't
Mhm.
understand that because circumstantially they're only looking at what's happening right now. But
Mhm.
that's like, people have got to understand that their thoughts and their emotions are the seed. And I know they've heard this before, but it's like the
Mhm.
biggest secret in the world that's right
Mhm.
out there in the open that nobody believes. I'm like, no, really, thoughts become things.
Yeah.
No, really, thoughts become things, thoughts and feelings. And so when I look at the world right now and I see how mad people are, not to I don't want to get our tinfoil hats out, but it's like,
Mhm.
the system has kind of not really been adapted for people to be creative, independent thinkers. And at this
Mhm.
day and age, I think you just see a pressure cooker and the top is just about ready to pop off because since the Industrial Revolution, there's just been created division and separation and labels and you're this and that. And so now when everybody's divided and because they've been programmed through society, through
Mhm.
culture to never
Mhm.
feel validated or accepted anywhere, everybody just
Yeah.
there's so much pain and people don't know how to
Yeah.
process it. And so they're
Yeah.
killing themselves or they're burning things down or
Right.
they're fighting or they're beating their kids or their husbands and wives. And it's terrible. But again, it's
Mhm.
like my heart bleeds because, and I know you're the same way. My heart bleeds because like when I see people are so mad, I don't get mad. I don't usually get mad at them anymore in
Right.
my life. It makes me sad, and
Mhm.
not pity them. Like it just makes me sad for them
Mhm.
because I know what it's like to be that mad. I've
Mm.
had nights in my past when I was not the best human being. I was drunk and destroyed my house and yelling at my
Mhm.
girlfriend. Just like
Yeah.
just a monster. And so like
Right.
I can relate to that. And so as it comes to storytelling or vulnerability or what we're talking about now, it's like
Mhm.
sometimes people will see me on stage or on video and I'll just be bawling and then 1 second I won't be. And then 1 second I'll be bawling again. And people they're like, man, I don't know if that's real. Like, are you faking that? I'm like, no, man. Like, you gotta understand, I've gone through so much pain in Marshall Gillen's life. Like, I've had
Yeah.
so much that it just takes a second for me just to all I have to do is think about it. And I just
Yeah.
think about that moment, that emotion. And so
Right.
that's what I always try to convey to people now. I always go, the details of like the circumstances are different, but just take a step back when you're mad at somebody and just think
Mhm.
about what's really going on.
Mm.
Like, what are they really feeling? Are they
Mm.
scared? Are they fearful? Are they protecting
Mm.
themselves from something? And how did that come? And so when
Mm.
I've been able to take that perspective and really just stop and think, why is this person doing this? Why is this guy yelling at me? Why
Mm.
is whatever happening? And
Mm.
and then going, okay, Marshall, when is a situation in your life when you've acted like that? And
Mm.
for me, it's just but when have you acted like that? I'm like, oh yeah, remember that time you did blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, God, I was so
Right.
mad, so hurt, I didn't understand. Yeah, that guy
Huh.
probably is going through that too. That sucks. Like,
Huh.
kind of makes me bummed out for him. And so anyways, that's helped me really start to, mature, but really just find freedom in my life. And then once you were able to
Mm.
clear up that inner junk, dude, then you're starting things like Onward, and you're like, what am I going to do next? And you just start manifesting stuff, man. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple things, man. I love what you just shared. Thanks, and I think that's something I've seen recently a couple of times that's popped up, and it's the idea of I do feel like a lot of people are really angry, whether it's an election or it's relationships or it's the economy or whatever's going on. There's a
Yeah,
lot of people who are angry out there, and I teach history. I've taught history for a long time, and
that's
so
so cool.
when you bring up the Industrial Revolution, I think about the idea that before this time, most people are living out in the country. They're living in the farms. They're around their family all day. Dads are taking their sons out and teaching them how to plow the field, and the girls are with mom in the kitchen and sewing and cooking and taking care of all that kind of stuff. But then as we move into the city, as the Industrial Revolution and develops in the 1800s, you know it really radically changes where people are living and how
Family.
they're living. Changes family. It changes the family structure. And um you also, okay, so one of my favorite books is Henry David Thoreau's Walden, right?
Yeah,
And
I bought it because of you. I've been reading it. It's excellent. I
isn't it
love it.
great? Yeah,
It's so awesome.
it's a great book. And that guy, super interesting guy. I'm not going to get off too much on a tangent, but that's kind of what you did a little bit. I mean, what Henry David Thoreau was doing was he basically says, look, um, he was a scholar, super intelligent guy, and all this. And he was a city guy, but he's like, you know what? I need to get back to nature. And there was this whole group of people, the
Oh,
transcendentalists. Yeah, there are all these people, the
it's so good.
transcendentalists. Yeah, and they're like, what's going on with this industrial revolution's wrong. Like people are working all day in these dark and dirty factories, and families are torn apart, and all that kind of stuff. And so he's like, the transcendentalists are like, we need to get back to nature and get back to what we're supposed to be doing.
Right.
And and man, that's something that I told you about the book because I knew what you were going through. I was like, hey, that's what Thoreau did, man. Tell us
Yeah.
a little bit about that, man. You were living the dream in San Diego, and
Bro,
now
dude,
you're out in
listen,
Montana. Tell me about that.
this is the craziest thing, man. I wanted to unpack something you said before that, but I'm sure it'll come back up.
Yeah.
There was a couple things here. So the first thing is growing up poor, being a 5-time college dropout, former drug
Mhm.
addict, attempting suicide, all the things, right?
Mhm.
Like just this not this good guy. Um,
Mhm.
what had happened is I was taught that like if you grow up and make a lot of money and you have a lot of success and you help a lot of people and you have a lot of nice things, like you'll have made it and you'll be happy. And then
Mhm.
because I finally made that switch, I also at the age of 27 is when I switched my life around. I
Yeah.
was like, I got to prove everybody wrong. I'm going to prove
Mhm.
oh yeah. And so I was out on this mission to prove everybody wrong, show everybody
Yeah.
how cool I was going to be, go out and get all the things, help all the people. So that's what I did. Sorry, I just
Mhm.
told you guys the story. So for the next 2 years, that's what I did. I won awards and traveled the world and sat Guinness Book of World Record, like all kinds of crazy stuff, right?
Nice, man.
And January 2019, I thought that was going to be my first 7-figure year. I had just had my second multiple 6-figure year. I was doing the top 8 speaking thing, traveling around. I was rocking it. Had the beautiful girl. I had the nice things. I was living in a luxury high-rise 21st downtown San Diego, overlooking
Mhm.
both the bars I used to work at. Like by all intents and purposes, like I had made it.
Mhm.
Like this is all the things I'd always wanted to do. And what's
Yeah.
interesting, Jake, is I heard Ed Milet giving a speech one time, and he
Mhm.
described it so perfectly. And that was actually the moment I was and what Ed talks about is he's talking about climbing the mountain, how hard it is to get there, and how the weather and all the elements are just but you got to keep climbing. He's like, if I
Yeah.
finally, at certain age, he's like, I got up to the top of that mountain. He's like, I finally did it. He said, I could see the valley, and I looked across the valley, and I saw the mountain over there that I was supposed to climb. And I was
Ah.
like, oh my gosh, dude. I'm like, it hit me.
Ah.
And I developed what I think now was an ulcer, but something this physical manifestation of pain. And to make a really long story short, I had realized I had burnt out. The one thing I had always had that I took for granted was my health. Now all of a sudden it had seemed that my health had been snatched away from me. I thought I was dying. I didn't have health insurance. I'm a typical dumb guy. I wasn't going to go to the doctor. So I did the best thing you could do, which is I Googled it. But really what happened is I thought I was dying of cancer, and I read this, and not to discount anybody that's sick. That's not, I didn't take care of it. And so I started reading about eating vegetables and how vegetables could maybe cure it. And then I started learning about how not just nutritionally, how food is medicine, and food is medicine, but I started learning more about the power of like literally the mind and the quantum physics, and then epigenetics. And I started being like, wow, like it kind of seems like when we return to this primordial, like this ancestral way of being, without like the meditation or visualizations, things that people have talked about for thousands of years, but all of a sudden in the last 100 years we don't do anymore.
Right.
And it's like I started kind of getting tapped into that nature. And I was right around the time that I got this idea about the Industrial Revolution, and the time that my relationship started to fall apart for 5 years. I was going through Garrett White's whatever it's called, Wake Up Warrior 5-day challenge or something.
Right.
And in part of it, or maybe I made the investment, but he shares this really unique idea about the Industrial Revolution. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And what he says is basically the same thing as you did. And that was a big turning point for me, because first what happens, I thought I was sick. I started reading about the power, the natural power that our body has to heal. And then I started learning about, and then I heard Garrett, because I was getting a little woo, not that there's anything wrong with woo and spiritual, but I was kind of starting to drift away from my farm boy roots, And all of a sudden Garrett shows up and he's talking about the Industrial Revolution. And he's saying, yo, like there was a time when there was nothing wrong with a woman being a woman, a man being a man. And not that I'm saying that you can or you can't be, but what I'm saying is that I'm a very traditional man. I want to provide. I want And so when he's talking about the Industrial Revolution, is you just what you said. You see these homesteads where they're making and providing everything. Your neighbor's your neighbor. You'll lend and have whatever anything they need, you're going to give them, and vice versa. And then all of a sudden the Industrial Revolution comes, and now dad's working in town. Son doesn't have anything to do. And it's like, well, I feel bad that the wife's home alone. Here's some money. Go to town and buy yourself some stuff. Here's more money. I'm more absent. And now the woman's like, well, what do I really need a man for? And you just start to see this division of family. And so when he said that to me, it was a highlight of what I was doing in my relationship that wasn't necessarily wrong, but that didn't serve me. And I was just doing this repeat pattern that I had learned from my parents. And so now all of a sudden here I am, and I'm realizing, wait a second, I have this natural ability to literally create anything that I want. And I also have this like feeling like the universe is trying to get me to be more connected, like to the homestead, to the way that it's supposed to be, and not to be again a conspiracy theorist, but it's like I felt this need, like when he said that I wanted to detach from the government, that I wanted to detach from all of my things. I was just like this knowingness. I can't even explain it. And so I go through the breakup, and I leave San Diego. I host my last men's retreat, and then I drive home to Illinois. I just needed a break, man. I needed a break from everything. The breakup was really bad. More than 75% of my network ended up, the people that knew me, that met my girlfriend through me, they ended up going with her and believing her stuff. And I really felt hard. Because a lot of the people that knew me, that knew me were like, I always knew there was something about him that was fake. I always knew he was a liar. And I'm like, did you guys see me going live every day talking about everything for 3 years? But again, that was my ego. And so what happens is I get sent back to Illinois, and I didn't have any place to stay. And so I was staying in my grandparents' house. They're both passed away, just sitting empty. There's no furniture in it. There's like a couch and a mattress. And there's no internet, and it's in the middle of the freaking woods, basically, in Illinois. It's like a little village of like 100 people. And so I go from this luxury high-rise, jet traveling, motivational speaker, multiple six figures. I still have my money. I still have the money, a little bit of money left, right? But that's it. And I'm mad at it. And I don't even want to do any of it anymore. And so now my soul, my being is just, you saw I was doing a million things. And I'm just searching. I'm just trying to hang on to something. And what happened is I went to that house, and I actually had no internet connection. And so I literally was like alone for 2 months in the snow for the first time in like 12 years. And there was something about it, dude. I looked out the window, And the colder it got, the more I wanted to go get in the cold water. And
Huh.
it like sounds like the Wim Hof story, right? 'Cause that's right when I found the
Right,
Wim Hof.
right, for sure, yeah.
And I was so broken. I thought I was dying. I was feeling this call to return to nature. I had no idea what it meant. I was starting to realize that we have control over our body. I was having this download, like I'm supposed to do some kind of homestead. Like I got to disconnect from this matrix. And so I just
Hmm.
dove head into really understanding all this and learning it. And what I found out is that for Marshal Gillen, like I just really wanted to be closer to nature. I don't know
Hmm.
why. I'd never been like that. And so I started going
Yeah.
out to nature, started going out and chopping ice through the river and getting in the water. And I'm like,
Huh.
I mean, it was like -11. I have videos of me. I'm hiking for an hour, -9 degrees with nothing but shorts
Dang.
on. But
That's
and
some
like one of the videos,
that's some David Goggins stuff right there. You know David
well,
Goggins? He's
yeah,
got
of
some
course,
stories
dude,
like that. Yeah, yeah, he's got some stories
100%.
like that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, one of the days I made this video and I'm like, I started busting down crying. I mean, I was like, wasn't trying to. Man, I'm just documenting it. And all of a sudden I just
Right.
lost it. Man, I'm just like, because I was like, I was like, this thing in my mind broke where I'm like, I'm good enough. If I could do
Mm.
this, if I can do this, I can do anything. I mean, the video's raw. I'm bawling. I'm like, and it was
Mm.
just a moment of download, a pure release, man. And I was like, I need more nature. And so
Mm.
I had reconnected with a good buddy of mine, my best friend from high school. I hadn't seen in many, 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 many years. And
Mhm.
as spring turned around, we started going camping. And we'd go camping, and then C-19 hit, and the lockdown started, and we were like, whatever. So we just got in his Forerunner, and we would just travel all over the Midwest, camping out in our tents,
Yeah, yeah.
doing whatever. And
Right,
I
right.
fell in love with it. And then one day he was like, hey, bro, do you want to move to Montana? I think I get a job out there. And I was like, no, not moving to Montana, dummy. And then I googled the place that he said we were going to move to. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
texted him right back. I was like, when we leaving, bro? When we leaving, man? And so we literally I packed up my Jeep Patriot. He packed up his Forerunner, and we drove out here to Montana. And I'm going to get to a point to why it's so powerful, but it's like we had never been here, didn't know anything. He didn't have a job. I didn't really have a job. I had not been motivational speaking or coaching or doing really anything for almost a year now, besides
Yeah,
literally just healing. And so
yeah.
we get out here, and we're like, we'll just find a place. Well, we didn't realize how busy summer is up here where we're at, and
Right.
so all the hotels were full, and we had to go camping. So we went camping, and that one day of camping turned into like 8 days of camping. We could not find a
Mm.
place to live. Like we
Right.
could not find a place to live. We were Bro, it was a mess. And this is crazy because on the way out here, I just kept telling people, I just want to live in a cabin in the mountain. I just want to live in a cabin in the mountain. But dude, I didn't have a cabin to live in. And not only that, I didn't even have a spoon. Like I didn't have a bag. There was nothing. I didn't have anything. So but like, for the people listening, it's like, what do you think? Marshall, how are you going to get, okay, so you want to live in a cabin, but what? Like, how are you going to make that happen? But I didn't worry about it, dude. I mean,
Yeah,
I just didn't. We
yeah.
get out here. It's day 8. It started raining on day 6. So now we're camping outside and it's pouring for 2 days straight. And I'm like, it's a Saturday and I'm just defeated. The last place we had just tried to call didn't go. And I'm like, it wasn't even a cabin. It was like a shitty or crappy little house, my bad,
Yeah, yeah, you're good, man.
in the city,
Yeah.
And I was really just feeling so defeated. But I had this thing in my mind that we're going to get a cabin. And then all of a sudden, my buddy Adrian calls me. He's like, dude, okay, this cabin just came up. It's out in the middle of nowhere. Like, I think we can get it. We went and looked at it, and the day later, I don't want to say manifested because I don't want to scare people. We manifested this cabin that's fully stocked. The people that live here, they live in Canada, and this cabin is a second home, and they can't
Yeah.
come across the border. They're stuck. So it's just this fully gorgeous, amazing, fully stocked cabin. And it's just like, the power of being able to really just truly get clear on what you want, be
Yep.
willing to move through the pain and the fear. Because listen, going through fear it hurts, it sucks. Like it's not
Yeah.
fun, but you can't spend your life avoiding that. People have got
Right.
to understand that being alive means you get to have a full spectrum of emotions. Because when you die, you return to God. You're God. You're the universe. Your
Right.
source energy, which is
Right.
nothing but pure bliss and enlightenment. And
Right.
so the fact that you get to plug in and play the game, and you have this full spectrum of emotions you get to feel, once you can fall in love and have gratitude for that contrast, it's like
Yeah.
everything changes. And so that's what I learned over that last year is I was like, I started to be happy for these things. Well, not happy, but I started to find like I was like, I know whatever this is, it's got to swing back equal and opposite way. And so it's just like all these things manifested into this cabin in Montana. And now that I've been here, going on month 4, it just started snowing like gnarly. I can't believe how much it snows. It's not even anything yet. California kid, right? But I spent the first 3 months here outside the whole time. I was back in the back country, 52% public land here in Montana. So it means I can just get my Jeep and really go anywhere. I can carry a gun on my hip. I can train and shoot. I can camp. I can fish. I can hunt. I can hike Glacier National Park, the amazing mountains out here. And I just lost myself in nature. I didn't have any service, which killed me. I'm addicted to technology.
Right.
But there was something about that Walden moment. There was a calling. There's the big city kid. I lived luxury high rise, traveling around, doing all the things, Mr. Plugged In. And all of a sudden there was this calling over a whole year to return to nature. And I denied it. I didn't know what it was. And then like Henry says in the book, he talks about this calling. And he just goes to nature. Now his was way more isolated, back then compared to what mine is. But in that same token, and so when you told me about that book, I almost lost it. And then I started reading it when I was out camping and stuff. I was like, "You're kidding me!"
Yeah.
And it's timeless, right? Because it's like the power of being present, which I could only find when I'm out in nature. And for me, I'm not like a religious, like, let's go to church guy. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think it's weird. It's never worked for me. But when I go out into nature, dude, and I can see the tree and I can see the fruit fall from the tree and the animals eat the fruit and then the animals die and they decompose and they become the ground and the nutrients and then the sun and the rain and then the tree grows again. It's like there's a cycle of life. Or you look at a rock that's been there for millions of years, or the perfect geometrical shapes that are falling out of the sky right now. Right. Bro, I'm like, you look at nature and you understand there's got to be something bigger than us. And then you start to think about back in my monkey mind, my ego, and I start to remember the epigenetics. I start to remember the biohacking, all the quantum physics, and you start to, in the pain that you've gone through in the stories, you start to mold it all together. And not to sound weird, but I know some people get offended when I say this, and I don't mean to, but it's like, we are gods and goddesses. Like we are created in God's perfect image, whether you believe in the Bible or whatever it is. But it's like, so if you knew that you could never fail, if you knew you couldn't get it wrong, then what would you do? Like, what would you try? And that's like literally what my life is about. And so to be able to come out here now and to come full circle and to only be 36, because I'm going to live to be at least 120. Like I got a buck 20 in me, no problem. I know that for sure. And so I'm like, to be able to have an opportunity now to have all the knowledge and the skills from digital marketing, how to start a podcast, how to brand, how to public speak, how to heal your body. I mean, relationship. I mean, like addiction, freaking like suicide, violence, arrest. It's like, wow, 36 years and I feel young. I feel so young and able. I feel like my prime is still at least a decade ahead of me, if not more. And I'm like, I want to just be able to give that to more people, and especially men. And so if anything, you ask, like, what has it been like to be in Montana, like reading that book and return to nature and the big city life, man? As soon as I was let go of everything changed. As soon as I surrendered. And if you think you've surrendered, then I'm going to tell you surrender more, because I thought I was all surrendered. I thought I was all accepted. Like, let's go. And I got to Montana and I found out I had no service. And I found out that you can't go just get whatever you want. There's no freaking Uber Eats. There's barely even any place to go do anything. Right. And all of a sudden I realized, I was like, I don't need anything. I don't need anything that I can't provide. And the more that I get out in nature, I've had this calling to, build this ranch, and which is the plan, to build the ranch and the homestead. But I just want to be able to get to more people. And I'm not telling you guys to move to Montana or out in the nature or whatever, or out in the middle of nowhere. I'm just saying, if you can, like, when I was living in San Diego and it started, I would be able to look out my high rise down into the concrete jungle, and I would literally, Jake, I would see one little like grass, like just one little patch of grass, and I would just give so much love and joy for it, because I'm like, there's life. If life can survive in this city, and so whatever it is, I have videos from last, where I would go out for my 5 o'clock nightly walks, and I would see these trees in San Diego, downtown, just the ones that are like in the sidewalk, and it was just like this vibrant pink and purple, like these deep colors. I'm like, nature makes that. Does anybody stop and realize it's not dyed, it's not fake? You look at the sunset, You know what I mean? You look at a
Yep.
freaking flamingo, you watch
Right.
a bald eagle come out of the sky and snatch a fish out of the water, and it's like, that is nature. Like
Yeah.
the same feeling that makes that hawk hungry to want to go eat, and the same feeling of confidence. Yes, it's a bird, and there's no consciousness to be able to conceptualize what that means. But
Right.
that hawk, when it's hungry, the eagle feels just like you feel when you're hungry. And you start
Yep.
to be in nature, and you see the cyclical and how everything's created, and you realize the only thing in the universe that self isolates itself is human beings, and it's
Hmm.
because the system is constructed that way. And so
Huh.
as soon as I unplugged, man, best connection I've ever had. Not to be punny, but
No, that's awesome. So I had a friend once who he was a physicist at University of Louisiana, and he wrote a book called. So this is a science guy, right? He's a physicist, and he wrote a book called "In His Magnificence," which basically he takes physics and he says all of these things like the proximity of the sun with the earth, and if the earth was 1 degree to the right or 1 degree to the left, we would freeze to death, or we would
nothing
we
worked.
would we would melt, right? And so it was a great book where he just blended science with God, and he essentially was using science to prove God, because he was arguing it was just it, it couldn't be this random. For everything to
Can't
be as
be.
magnificent as you just described, it couldn't be that random.
It can't be. I mean,
Yeah.
we did get deep in it. We don't have to get too nerdy tonight, but it's like the Fibonacci sequence, how
Yep.
the numbers are
Oh
numbers.
man.
Numbers make up the
Yeah.
universe. I mean, if you
Yeah.
study this thing called, and just to briefly touch on it in a very simpleton way, but it's like I'm sure you know of the simulation theory of
Yeah.
the physicist who found it. He literally, for the listeners, found code in the universe. Like, and so the same exact numbers of zeros and ones that it takes for your computer to flash a 404 not found page, like
Right.
there's a certain code to make that page come up. That code has been found in the fabric of the universe. It's like it's literally
Crazy,
in.
man.
And so I'm not saying it is simulation, but it is. But I'm not saying it is, but I'm like, yo,
Yeah.
like it's and then again, your mind can run away from it. And so that's why I
Hmm.
always bring it back to the simple thing. I go, whatever. Let's just
Yeah.
pretend. What if you
Right.
couldn't fail? What if you
Right.
couldn't get it wrong? What would you
Yeah.
try? Who would you be? If I was to say,
Right.
like, sit down and make a movie character, draw your movie character. Marshall I was an alter ego I needed to start. It's like, make your
Hmm.
movie character and then just pretend to be that person. And you know what's going to happen? You're going to freaking manifest cabins and luxury high rises that overlook but you just got to get clear. I'm this great manifester. I just never get clear on what I want. And so it
Hmm.
keeps giving me everything I want, but not how I asked for it because I didn't ask for it, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, man, I'm about that. It's just too. It can't be random. I mean, I
Yeah,
just
man.
ate. It's like, God,
Yeah, a couple things. One, you brought up Fibonacci, which I love, right? And I've been looking at Fibonacci retracements. I'm not going to get into this, but I do a little bit in the crypto world with and I look at the Fibonacci retracements and all that kind
wow.
of stuff. So I don't want to get into all that right now, but it's super interesting that you brought that up, because I've been reading and studying about Fibonacci lately a
It's
lot.
just the universe.
Um,
Just it's the universe. I've showed you have synchronicity in your life, bro. Come a reflection
Synchronicity,
of you.
man. Yeah,
Hundred
man. I've
percent.
been. In fact, I had a conversation. A message exchange with a previous guest on this show, and we're talking about some of that stuff earlier, just before we got on. But anyway, the thing I want to come back to, though, I just thought it fascinating that you brought up Fibonacci, because that's been on my
Yeah,
mind
yeah. Let's do it. Have
lately.
bro.
But what I want to talk about is, as you mentioned it several times, is manifesting, right? And so
Oh
this
yeah.
whole show, and I say this show is dedicated to helping ordinary people live extraordinary lives, right? And so I've had someone else tell me once that, we're constantly manifesting. We're manifesting all the time. The problem is, a lot of times we're manifesting things we don't want at all, right? But you said, and you've argued that you manifested the cabin that you're living in. You kind of, that you've kind of become a master manifester. Tell us, like, somebody out there who's listening, who watches the replay, whatever, there's there's a lot of people out there who, let's be honest, they're not real happy with where they are in life. maybe
Yeah.
maybe their relationship's not great, maybe they don't love their job, maybe their money's not right, and they want to
Yeah.
change some stuff, right? That's what this show's about, helping people change their lives. So share with our listeners, if they want to manifest the kind of life that they want instead of the life that's happening to them, what do, man? Walk us through that.
Yeah.
How change some lives, Marshall.
All right, bro. We're gonna start from the beginning though, because we have to. If you really want, if people who don't believe in manifestation are gonna believe, I'm not here to convince anybody, but I'll just share with you how it started and how it goes. So let's talk about how to manifest things, literally anything. First and foremost, what I'll say is you can't turn off the law of attraction. The people are like, oh, it doesn't work for me. Listen, like you have no control over it. The law of attraction is 100% in effect all the time. What happens is though, it's like gravity. But people have to understand is that our thoughts are electric and our feelings are magnetic. And so Jake, but science can literally measure our electromagnetic field. Now, the machine, the equipment that they use to measure that electromagnetic field shows that our electromagnetic field extends up to 9-10 feet. But studies have shown that they feel like that field is infinite. And so why I'm saying this is everything's about energy. And so, like I've heard before, like when a gazelle is on the savannah and sees a lion laying on the tree, the gazelle can feel that it shouldn't go over there. It's going to get freaking eaten. Okay. So like people who are like, oh, I don't know about energy. It's like, well, like that's inherent. You have certain feelings. Sometimes you walk in a room and it's like, gosh, is somebody dying here? Like it's real thick. Or you walk in, it's like, wow, like what's going on in here? It's not random. Science proves that when electromagnetic fields come together, that's how it works. Now, taking that another step further, because what is energy? Energy is just a frequency. It's a wave. It's a wave. It's a frequency, right? And so we have to understand is like, okay, well, let's just take a step back and understand frequencies real quick. So I want to show you guys something. Yeah. Let's say that I was holding two rocks that both weighed the same weight. And theoretically, I drop both rocks at the same time and they fall into a body of water at the same time. They hit at the same speed. What happens? Equal waves are created and they flow together simultaneously, okay? Because like energy likes like energy. Now, if I have one of those rocks and I drop one a little bit sooner than the other, they're going to hit, and what's going to happen? A bigger wave is going to start on this side. Now, you guys got to understand that waves are just energy moving through water. It's a frequency. And so when I drop it, if the bigger wave is coming with the littler wave, what's going to happen? The bigger wave is going to swallow up the little wave, and the strongest frequency is the one that's going to win. Now, I tell you that because I'm telling you that energy is literally measured from your heart and your mind. Your thoughts and your feelings we talked about create your electromagnetic field. So the better the thoughts and the feelings, the better the things you're going to attract with your magnet. As long as you're not around a bunch of unlike energy, that's going to trump your good energy. Okay, so cool. Now we know that. And you're like, yeah, Marshall, I don't really know about that. Okay, cool. Let's take a step back for a second. If you were to take a microscope and zoom in on the human body, what you would see is that we're not even there. Like, we're made up of 50 to 70 trillion cells, okay? These cells are not connected together with a string. They're not bolted together. They're just a bunch of little cells that are vibrating at a frequency, and a frequency conglomerates into this. Okay, science can prove that. And if you take it a step further, then you understand that what is matter? Well, matter, physics is the study of matter. And what physicists find is that when they look inside that matter, there's nothing there. It's 99.9999% empty. And so they're like, what's going on? How can this be hard if there's nothing there? And so there's this thing called quantum physics born. And quantum physics is the study of what happens inside of that physics. Okay, so I know you guys are really smart. You guys are keeping up with me. So now with all that being decided and you understand that literally we are all energy. And everything is energy. The air that you can't see, space, it's all just atoms and molecules. That's all it is. It's just energy that's vibrating at a certain frequency. Okay, cool. Now it's like, I get it, Marshall. I understand that science proves that we are energy, and the better the thoughts and the feelings we have, the more we can attract. Okay, great. Now we understand that. Let's bring it back to right now. We have to understand how these things happen. First off, you have a thought. Where the thoughts come from, I don't know. I think they come from God or consciousness, but they pop up. You don't know where they come from. But the thoughts then are filtered through or an experience or a circumstance. A thought or experience or circumstance is then filtered through a past story or experience that you've had, and then you make a judgment on it, and that judgment creates a feeling, and that feeling creates an action, and the action creates a result or lack of inaction. And so people have got to understand they don't take control of their thoughts. We are just energy. We're giant receivers. Like we're just receiving signals from who knows where. And then we can act out whatever we want. But the reason that's so hard for people to change is because they can only see what's in front of them. And so they get stuck in a loop. My job sucks. Go to bed. Thought sucks. Experience. My heart's and now And then you surround yourself with other people who hate their job or who hate whatever they're doing or the relationship that they're in or whatever it is. And this energy is the stronger energy is always going to constantly trump the bad energy. And so it's like, if you know that you vibrate, that you can increase your vibration, because there's something called the something scale, like, Hawkins scale. If you guys were to Google something called the Hawkins scale, what you guys will find, it's a scale that shows the different emotions that people have. Enlightenment being the highest, then love, and then at the very bottom, fear, anger, and actually desire is a very low vibrational frequency, because desire is admitting to your subconscious or to the universe in an energetic way that you lack. I desire for that because I lack it. And so that's a little bit more advanced. And so when it comes to manifesting, here's what we got to do, you guys. First is we got to get really, really clear on what we want. The problem is that most people can't get clear on what they want because they have a bunch of stinking thinking from a hurt heart. Okay. And so the very first thing that you have to do is you have to understand what are the triggers in your life that upset you the most. Write those bad boys down. These are the triggers that upset me. What emotions do those triggers cause? They cause these emotions. Where else in your life is that emotion caused? Oh man, it's caused here, here, and here. Great. When is the first time you remember feeling that emotion? Oh my God, I remember that time after football practice in 6th grade when I was so happy after my game, and I went and told my dad and his friends, and they all laughed at me and told me I was never going to be any good. Like, that really happened, right? And I'm like, and I have to trace that back to the first time I remember not feeling great. And then over time, it just started to calcify, and I just never felt worthy for many different reasons, which caused destructive habits. And so for people who are listening, people who don't like where their life is at right now hate when I say this, but you get what you accept. Like, once you accept responsibility for your life, I'm not blaming you. I'm not saying your circumstances weren't hard, but you get what you accept in life. And so for manifesting whatever you want, first you've got to understand what is it I'm actually hurting from, so I'm not angry anymore. And because once you can start to remove anger, you can start to have a little bit more gratitude. And it's not easy to be grateful when things are a mess. And so that's why our man Tony Robbins says, where focus goes, energy flows. And so when we can start to really dial in and have control of these thoughts, and once we have control of these thoughts and we filter them, if we don't like the story that they're filtered through and the feeling that it's creating, now it's time to go back and change this story. And so once you can take control of your thoughts and change the story that you're telling yourself, you're going to start to get better feelings. And now, if we're going back to the science part of it, this has leveled up and increased the vibration of your receiver. So now at a quantum physics level, at a scientific level of the universe, you're literally a better magnet. Your electromagnetic field is better. And so now you go, well, yeah, but how? How am I going to get these things?
Can I stop you real quick? Because I'm following everything you said, right? I mean, I've read Dispenza's stuff, and I'm a big believer in law of attraction, and we're just sharing this stuff with the audience. But I want to go back to something. I think that when you read through all this literature and you study quantum physics, and everyone says, well, your thoughts become your reality and all this, but you brought up something you don't see a lot in the literature, and that is it starts with healing. Because if you've got hurt and anger and you've got stuff going on inside of you, because I've had a lot of discussions, and I've got friends who've like, hey, I've tried to do all this manifesting stuff, but you're doing a good job manifesting, but sometimes people are not manifesting the things they're trying to manifest.
Right.
And so to me, that was like kind of a key to unlocking the equation that you just said.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so you said, like, really, like, step one is you got to heal some stuff first. I love that, 100%. Man.
It's, well, people say, oh, mindset's everything. Mindset is everything. Wrong. I know people in prison who have the strongest mindset you have ever known. Why are they in prison, unhappy and angry? Because mindset's only one side of the coin. Emotionality is the other side of the same coin. And so unless you can understand the duality of life, which is a yin and a yang, and understanding that God or energy or universe, whatever, is both male and female at the same time, and that each and every one of us is a male and female energy. And once we can balance that, you have to understand that birth or rebirth or whatever comes from feminine energy, which means that you have to heal the wounds. You can't just masculine your way through it and perform your way through it. And nobody told me that when I was reading the literature either. And so it was me just piecing things together where I started to realize this and started to really understand, okay, how to actually manifest these things. Because people go, oh, I've been doing all the things, Jake, but I'm getting more of the crap I don't want. I'm like, yeah, bro, because you can't lie to your subconscious. Your conscious knows. You can't lie to the vibrational frequency you put out. And so if you're constantly worrying, like, I get it, you're worried about money, right? Oh man, I'm so worried about money. I can't pay my bills. It's easy for you to say, cool. Well, guess what? This is what we got to focus on right now. Today, nobody's kicking you out of your house today. And so that's where the discipline starts. And it's a discipline. It's not easy to change your way of thinking after years of life. But once you can start to find, I said earlier in the show, gratitude for the contrast, and you start to get clear on what you want. And if you decide, you know what, Marshall, maybe my sounds a little crazy, maybe he's right. Maybe I'll just pretend that I could never get it wrong and that I will never get, I'll never fail. Like maybe if I just pretend and I'm like, okay, I'm going to write myself as a movie character, because every movie and book starts the same way. The guy who's down on his luck, he's got all those things are stacked against him, and then something changes. And so if you can truly start to have faith, which has nothing to do with religion, but having faith in what we're saying, and maybe this is a greater way. Maybe it is a scientific world that I can also leverage spirituality and create whatever I want. Because I'm not, I don't, not nothing against the Bible. I'm not, but the Bible clearly says that too. Ask, you shall receive. Knock, and you shall be answered. Seek, and you shall find.
Yeah, very.
And so it's like, so it's like that is a story literally of the whole Bible is a story of how to play this game. It's about creating a good feeling and good thoughts. And so the first place you got to do is you got to heal. You got to go back and heal that. I have this inner child meditation and deep work I take people through. But it's like once you can start to change the story and heal that inner child. And so for me, what it looks like, I'm going to keep this part brief, but it's like what I do is I'll do this meditation where I visualize me right now, or whoever you are right now, pulling I'm visualizing this, pulling up to wherever a place that you think is safe from your past. For me, it was my grandparents' house. And so for Marshal Gillen, my visualization, my meditation becomes me pulling up to my grandparents' house. I get out, I walk in, I walk downstairs into the basement where my grandpa's workshop is at, and my grandpa is there, and little Marshall is there. And Marshall right now just tell, hey, little Marshall, come, and he jumps up here, and I give him a big hug, and I tell him how much I love him, and I have him go show me all the things he's working on, and then my mom comes out, and then my dad comes out, and my stepdad comes out, and so that was, and then there's more work, but that's like an example. And so it's like I went back and I started to heal those inner child wounds, and it was like it's like an onion. And so it's just this constant accepting responsibility for everything that you're feeling, because not because you want blame, but because you want to understand those emotions so you can change them. Because once you're able to do that, like you can start manifesting anything you want. I mean, it's wild. And so again, it comes in, the next step would be high performance habits, which is getting clear. How do you get absolutely crystal clear on what you want, and then reverse engineer your way back to where you're at? And so I know it's kind of, I mean, it's a ton of stuff we talked about, and it's a lot of high level stuff at times, but that's literally the law of attraction. I told everybody a year and a half ago, I was like, I'm gonna go live and prove to you guys how to do law of manifestation as soon as I get it. I'm lagging a little bit. I haven't quite mastered it where I go like this yet, but I'm telling you, bro, by 2021, I'm gonna do like a 30-day thing. I'm gonna go watch this, guys. I'm gonna manifest something impossible, because this cabin is a perfect example. I had the vision. I was grateful for what I had right now. I went through all these things. I had no idea how I was going to live in a cabin. Like I said, have a bed or any of the stuff. And then all of a sudden, one day, out of nowhere, out of nowhere. And so for people that like, and same thing with everything I've ever done, dude, all the good things that have happened to me over the last 4 years. And so for the listeners, like, that's what I want you guys to understand the most. It's like, it really is possible. Like, I was literally lying dead on the floor at the age of 23 from a drug overdose. And now I've been to travel the world, make money, meet awesome people, be awesome friends, like help thousands of people. Like, what are we talking about? Who am I? I'm freaking nobody, dude. And so like, you just got to believe, man. It's like, you're a perfect example. You're like, I'm going to do this. And now here you are back again. Because it's like, probably a little healing season for Jake. I haven't understood this. Let me tweak that. And it's like, dude, this is what it's all about. And you being back here on this next go around is what your listeners should be most stoked about. Because it's like, dude, Jake's proven that you can get knocked down and still get back up. And it's like, that's what people are afraid of. And so for leaders like you and I, or for podcasts like this, or the Marshal Gillen Show, it's like, or for anybody listening, I've been preaching it forever. Save a billion lives with the power of storytelling and vulnerability. Go start something. Go take a chance on yourself. Go start to do some deep work. Start to do some healing. You'll be so surprised at what you can accomplish. It's amazing. And once you start to realize that you're like, oh, I'm in control of this goofy avatar in this weird game. Okay, like, what do I want to do, man? It's cool.
So two things I want to follow up, and I love that. I really think you know I really think you shared a very important key to the law of attraction, the law of manifesting, and that's hey, we've all got some things that we probably need to go heal, right? And some people call it shadow work or whatever it is, but we got to
Yep.
go. We got to go. And a lot of times it might be childhood stuff or things from years ago, whatever it is. I think that's so important. I really appreciate you sharing that. And the second thing, you're talking about basically also in the law of attraction is what do people we know that okay, so you got to do the healing, but we've also got to know exactly what you want, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what I find is I talk to a lot of people, and I do some coaching and maybe not formal coaching, but I'm all the time trying to help people with their lives, right? Everywhere I go, I
Yeah.
go
For
to school
sure.
and all that kind of stuff. I'm always asking people like, are you happy where you are? If not, like, what do you want to do? And so many people, they either don't know what they want to do, or if they do, it's a real scaled down version. It's not like, oh, if I couldn't fail, like you said, this is what I would want. They're like,
Yep.
well, I think like I'm
All the
capable
time.
I'm capable of this, and it's a little bit better than where I am. So that's what I'm aspiring for. But I think it's hard to actually manifest that because it's not necessarily something you really want, but it's
Yeah.
something that you're still kind of selling for.
It breaks my heart, dude. It's the most heartbreaking thing ever. Um, Most people do things for money because that's
Mhm.
how this system has programmed us to be. And so, like, I was just talking to this girl the other day, and she has all these really cool ideas. She lives here in Montana. She's like a fisher chick and like all this cool stuff. And she works as some nurse right now, an LPN. Yeah, it's not an RN. LPN
Okay.
it's not a CNA. It's and I don't want to say low level nurse, but the tier down from because I don't
Sure.
mean that. My mom is an LPN, but
Yeah.
um, what I mean is like that's what she wants to do. And now she's I think she's in her early 30s.
Mhm.
She's has a young daughter, and she wants to go back to school. I'm like, what do you want to go back to school for? You don't even have any money. Like, what are you going to go back to?
Right.
Well, I
Right.
want to go be a. I'm going to go back to be a physical therapist. Okay, well, why do you want to do that? Well, like I kind of I like that and this and that, and it's like $23 an hour, and I'm like, okay, well, what would you? And so I started talking to her about and she had no, I mean, here in Montana and in Alaska before that, she's not been around the entrepreneurs, and so she's like, no concept. And so
Yeah.
talking to her just kind of broke my heart again because that's what everybody goes through. We're limited
Mhm.
by these things that we think that we can accomplish because of money, or because
Yeah.
it's always because of something because of money. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, man, like, what do you want to talk about? Like, what do you want to start? What do you want to do? And then most people, when you ask them, you're right, they can't even dream big enough because it's too
Mhm.
scary, because
Yeah.
there's no blueprint, there's no concept, they have nothing to see when it's ever worked out like that. That's just for some rich butthole. That doesn't work for people
Mhm.
like us. Like where I
Right.
come from, that's not people, doesn't work for people like us. And so again, the story you tell yourself, it's just what I mean, it's not right or wrong, it's what do you want from your life. And that's the
Right.
loop that people get stuck in, because that the feeling, the thought creates the feeling, and they focus where energy, or where focus goes, energy flows. And
Yep.
if you ask a person, you just said it, what do you want? They can never tell you. But if you ask them what they don't want, they'll tell you 500 things. Well, I don't want to
Mhm.
be broke, and I don't want to be this, and I don't want to be that. And they wake up and their
Right.
stomach wrenches, and they think about it,
Mhm.
and they go to bed and they can't fall asleep, so they pop some kind of pill or melatonin or a drug or a drink, and again, not judging.
Yeah.
And then they wake up and they do the whole thing again. It's not a secret, you guys. Thoughts and feelings become things. Simple. It's so simple. If you knew that you could never get it wrong, you would never fail, then what would you do? Hypothetical gun to your head, you have $1 billion, you never have to worry about money. What would you just go do? And then once you figure that out, go find a mentor who can teach you how to do that. Whatever it is, it's so
Yeah.
simple. Go find somebody in the world who's already had success doing what you want to do, and invest
Mhm.
time, money, and or energy into them, and do all the things that we've been talking about for the last hour. And I promise you, like, you can't get it wrong. You just got to try. You literally just got to try. And guess what? You're gonna die. You can never escape that.
Right.
You can't hide. You can't move somewhere. It
Right.
is
Right.
going to find you, and you never know when it's going to happen. Like
Yeah.
I got a friend of the family, just in his like mid 50s, was out cleaning the gutters the other day on a
Mhm.
ladder, like 6 feet off the ground. No
Yeah.
big deal. Done 100 times, million times in his life. Fell off the ladder,
Yeah.
busted his head, and died. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you just never know. You know, there's so many stories. It's like, so what do you got to lose? Like, why take it so serious? And again, I know it's easy for me at this point in my life where I don't do anything. Like, what are we talking about? I
Mhm.
don't do
Right,
anything.
right,
Like,
right,
you know,
right, right.
that's the thing. So some people are probably like, oh, it's so easy for you to say, but I'm telling you, man, it was not always like, it wasn't even that long ago. It hasn't always been like
Yeah,
this. And so
right.
you'd be quick how fast things can change. You just get clear. You go find a community that can help create those equal waves, find a mentor that can lead you, and then start forgiving yourself, start healing yourself. So forgiveness is the biggest thing that you can have in your life. It's ego's
Mhm,
kryptonite, and it's the number one thing that's going to help you love. And once you can fall
mhm,
in love with who you are, and you can look in the mirror, and you can look, like, literally, mirror work is huge. Wake up in the morning, first thing, put some kind of post-it note. What do I have here? Ego is either confidence or arrogance. I have post notes all over, but post post notes on your bathroom mirror. Wake up in the morning and go look yourself deep in your eyes and imagine you're talking to your very best friend, somebody you just
mhm,
love in the world, and give them a little pep talk. And
mhm,
not you, give your friend a pep talk and look
mhm.
deep into your eyes, and you'll be amazed how much better you start your day. Because once you
Huh.
can fall in love with you, and you can find, and it's, dude, I had a, listen, just to be honest and transparent, I don't know how much time we have. I don't want to go. I want to be
No,
respectful of
I'm
your
not.
time.
No, I'm good, man. This is good stuff. I
Okay.
can go as long as you want.
Because I want to be very clear on this because it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah.
I have struggled with mental health my whole life, and definitely, publicly. But something about yesterday was this breaking point for me, and I don't know why. It's like the last 2 days, I was caught in this loop, and everything that could go wrong in my life was going wrong. And I
Hmm.
don't know why. Oh, I kind of do know why, because I wasn't getting clear, and had a lot of resistance. I wasn't owning up to yet, and I feel fortunate because at this now I'm in the advanced classes, and so the littlest tiny movements, like, I mean, the lot of work only creates these little tiny movements now, but when I am able to move that little tiny bit, it's massive. And so yesterday, dude, again, I hesitate to tell kind of an open forum. I do privately, but you guys know that, like, my brand is just being honest. And so I was having some real bad thoughts yesterday morning. I was like, I woke up and I just couldn't even hardly get out of bed, and I was so hopeless. And I just felt like, what am I doing? What is the purpose of all of this? And
Hmm.
I thought to myself, I could literally just not do this anymore. I could, like, go out back in the woods and just opt out. Bears would probably eat me and I would be good. And
Hmm.
I was just like, I don't know what the point is, because I'm at this point where I don't really care about making money or being plugged
Yeah.
into the matrix and wanting to be.
Yeah.
And so the only reason I'm bringing this up is I don't need any pity or anybody pat on the back. I'm good now. It was 11/11/2020 yesterday, which I'm
Yeah.
spiritual and numeric. So it was 4/4, which is my, like, and it was dying. Yesterday was a death of, like, who I
Yeah.
was. It was supposed to
Yeah.
happen just like that. And I had these crazy thoughts that I hadn't had in years. I mean, like, years, bro. Thoughts that I knew unequivocally that I would never have again in this experience. And then all
Hmm.
of a sudden, just like that, out of nowhere, I
Huh.
was like, I wasn't actually thinking about it, like, but I
Yeah.
was, like, thinking about it, like, I could just go do this. And so the reason I say that, you guys, doesn't, just because I'm saying these things and I haven't figured out, doesn't mean that I'm never going to get it wrong. And then again, what is right and wrong? It's totally subjective. It's a spectrum of things that I get to experience. So yesterday, the reason I was able to get up out of bed is because one of my good friends, a new good friend, texted me and was like, I got you. Anything you need, call me. And then I texted another one of my friend, my buddy Kyle. You know Kyle.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Kyle's like, no, bro, I love you. You're amazing. And I just
Yeah,
decided to change the story.
Kyle was the first
First
guest on
guest.
the show ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember that episode,
Yeah.
dude. And so I just tell that part of the story to say, listen, again, once I talked to Kyle, it was right, bang, 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 right first thing in the morning. I just said, you know what, I'm really grateful for this. And I was telling my mom, because I was kind of, like, freaking out, and my mom was, like, just kind of worried. And I'm like, Mom, I texted her back, like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. I'm better now. I just said, I really, I know something big is coming. And for the audience too, like, at the time of filming this, what is it, like November 12th? You guys wait and see. In Marshal Gillen's life, something massive is coming. I don't know what it is, but I'm
Yeah.
so excited. And so yesterday, again, I was thinking these terrible thoughts, but I was able to find gratitude. I was able to shift, take control of my thoughts,
Hmm.
change the narrative so I can change the feeling, so I can change the action, so I can get a better result. Tony Robbins
Hmm.
says you take unresourceful actions, get unresourceful results. You take resourceful actions, get resourceful results. It's the same thing. I know all these. It's a habit. It's training. It's constant work. And so when I was in that mood, which I didn't know I was ever going to get to again, I woke up and I was like, nope, not going to accept that, because I know that's BS, because it has to swing back the opposite. It has to swing back the opposite way, because that's how energy works. So I'm going to take this intense energy and I'm going to refocus it. And I did, and I found this gratitude, and now it's like I woke up this morning that this I don't know, man, this breakthrough, this feeling of like a new level of freedom, which again is like I have almost complete freedom. So it's like, what else is there? But it's part of the game. Is constantly just getting to play it. I get to wake up and get better every day.
That's awesome, and I appreciate you sharing that. And they say it's darkest before the dawn, right? And
always, man.
And you've got I know, I have no doubt about it. You've got huge things coming. You're already massively impacting many lives. Many ripples going out throughout the world of people you've helped and influenced. Myself,
what a
just
blessing.
being one of them, right? And
Crazy.
so I know you got huge things coming, man. It's been a lot of fun hanging out with you. I mean, I feel like I could do 2 more hours.
Oh yeah, for sure, bro. Well, let's do our show. I have to get you on my show, man.
I would love to. Hey, I got one bonus question. This is kind of random, and I don't even know if you have an answer. If not, that's okay. But I think I saw a post today, and another guest, Gary, was on. He was on your show at one point.
Gary Kershke?
Yeah. So I saw this thing today. People are talking about a twin flame. Do you know anything about twin flames?
Oh
man?
My God! Are you kidding?
Because I was like, I saw it and I was like, okay,
listen,
interesting.
Listen.
I'm gonna have to do some reading about
this. This is so dumb. Okay, so this is just the universe flexing on us, just so everybody knows. You know how you were talking about Fibonacci sequence just a second ago? I randomly mentioned it, and you're like, bro, that's what I've been doing recently. Last night, I went out with 3 friends. We had some dinner, some cocktails, and then we sat there, and what we talked about for a massive portion, I asked the question, because I was with 2 very spiritual people.
Right.
I said, girls, can you tell me what the difference is between a twin flame and a soulmate? And then they lost their stuff, because they're like, no way. And so it's funny. It's funny because again, the universe is God's just going like, yo, bro, like, yeah, see me. But anyways, soulmate and twin flame. Again, this is getting really deep. But a soulmate, you can have many soulmates. Because
so I heard 12. I heard 12. I
don't know.
12. I don't know.
I don't know if that is a number.
Somebody say that. I don't know.
Well, people got to understand that we all come from the same energy, and so consider if like there was a ball of energy or ice, and somebody's just kind of picking at it, and the energy just kind of fell, and then that little ice chunk kind of started to melt. Like that's how I look at energy and souls, and so people understand that's the big energy, but we're all cut from a cloth. Like Jake and I we've done life together because all the same energy, it always reincarnates together in some way. So I didn't find I don't know, maybe like Jake was my brother or my dad or I don't know, who knows. Maybe I was his dad. Like you never know, but all this energy is and so when we start to understand that, we start to understand that we have soulmates, and these soulmates are literally people that are from our energy block, cut from the same cloth. And so when we find a soulmate, one of my soulmates, it was a man, like a guy named Larry that I met in San Diego. That guy's my soulmate. Like he's my soulmate. I can feel it when I'm with. I love him, but I mean not like in a weird way. Just like that's my that is my dude. And so that can be a soulmate, or a woman can be a soulmate. Now a twin flame is somebody who is exactly like you but cut from a different cloth. And so I guess this was the debate last night. Now this is the debate last night because my understanding of it is that when you find your twin flame, you guys have reunited because you're about to. This is your last go around on like this earth. Obviously, the way I've been talking to you guys, I believe in reincarnation. You don't have to, but when you like that kind of being what a twin flame is, and so and it's like so intense it burns you up, and
So Lindsay's asking here. She's saying, "Is a twin flame not good?" So is it? It's not good.
It's only your ego that's assigning. Your ego is assigning meaning to that because your ego wants to stay alive, and so you can't conceptualize in this third-dimensional reality as Lindsay or as Marshall, as Jake, that being here for the last time would be a good thing because our monkey brain can only analyze that or accept that as finite. Oh man, that's it? That sounds terrible. Well, how do you know? what about the other end is like when you get to go to your twin flame, it's like this incredible ecstasy or bliss or feeling that you don't even know because
Mm-hmm.
you don't go, it's not your senior year of high school and then you go to college and you're like, oh man, college, all this freedom sucks. Like I want to go back to high school. Like it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work like that. And so it's the
Yeah.
same thing. It's like I again, I don't know about twin flame necessarily, but let's just say death in general. Like I don't fear death anymore. I used to be
Yeah.
terrified of it just up 2 years ago because I'm like, how can it be worse on the other end? And so when
Yeah.
I think that was the debate we were having last night, where I was like, I'm kind of scared, but I understand that's just my ego. And so I don't really think it's twin flame is a bad thing because if that moment comes, that means that your soul is graduating to whatever's next. Like you
Huh.
know what? Like this like there's infinite dimensions. This is one
Gotcha.
dimension.
So
Like you know what I mean?
Lindsay's asking, do twin flames love deep but not get along?
That is, I don't think that the twin flames is no, I would like a twin flame is like I don't mean burn it up like in a bad way, like when you see people that you're just like, man, those people are, I mean, they're like in love, head over heels in love their whole life. They live like on
Got it.
fire. They're passionate. They're burning up. They're just everything. It's those people that are like, God, that couple is like, and again, and who's to know?
Huh.
Could be
Okay.
completely wrong.
Huh.
Yeah, but it's interesting thing that people, the not getting along part, because my ex-girlfriend and I we loved each other incredibly much, but we just couldn't get along. But that was the
Yeah.
lesson. That was the lesson I was like we had to learn.
Dude.
It was
All
one
right.
of release.
I got to get a timeout here because look, we're vibing. We're like I'm reading your mind. You're reading my mind. I that was the next thing I was going to ask you. I was going to say,
Yeah.
look, man, you went through this very public divorce, right? Not divorce,
Right.
breakup,
Breakup.
right? On social media and all
Social
that kind of
media.
stuff.
Yeah.
Without getting into the particulars, the question I had for you was, what's the biggest takeaway that you had from that, like in terms of bettering yourself or bettering your approach to relationships?
You get what you put out, man. 100%. And I don't mean to like oversimplify it, but that's it. Like
Hmm.
her and I were both a reflection of each other. And so for her, she kind of got bullied by older girls when she was in junior high, and it
Yeah.
alienated her. And
Hmm.
so that alienated her. And so she was always one of the not popular kids, and she got bullied by the popular kids. And then
Hmm.
her whole family was incredibly talented, famous musicians,
Hmm.
incredibly bright people working for freaking Google and all these things. And then it was
Yeah.
just her, this bartender. Okay, now that's her
Hmm.
story. So her story is that she is not accepted and that people I think she's dumb. And so that's
Hmm.
her. Marshall's story is that I grew up with a stepdad who told me I was a worthless piece of crap every day, no matter how much success I had, which was massive success all my life, I was
Hmm.
never made my dad or my stepdad love me. And so
Hmm.
Marshall's thing was, no matter how hard I try, I'm never going to be good enough. And so
Hmm.
now we don't know. You can't trick your subconscious. And so I can be like, oh, I love this person, but if I'm not healed inside, I'm going to attract me what I'm putting out in the universe. And so
Huh.
now her and I come together, and the more success that I had and the bigger I became, the more she started to resent everything about me because I was one of those popular kids, and everything comes so easy to
Mm.
you. I try forever, and everybody loves you,
Mm.
and it's always a show. And
Mm.
I hear my stepdad going, you're not good enough. I don't
Mm.
like you. And I'm doing everything for us. I tell you every
Mhm.
single day, I'm doing this all for you.
Mhm.
Now, time out. Because her and I, because of the unhealed wounds that we had, we loved each other. So that's why we stood together for 5 years, all the nights bawling. It makes me want to cry now. I can see her little nose, her little face, and her heart, it
Mm.
hurts. And it's sad because people like, it sucks, but that's how people are living their lives, man. And they don't
Mhm.
leave these relationships; they stay stuck in them, dude. And it's like
Mm.
I was in pain, but she was in pain, and
Yeah.
we weren't honest about it because we were
Mm.
so scared to let go. We're old, which we're not. I mean, but like
Right,
we're
right.
old. What are we gonna do? I failed again. The people in the mastermind won't like all these stupid things.
Mm.
And finally, after 5 years, I looked at her in July 2019, and I was like, kind of probably like I look right now, and I said, we can't do this anymore. So we can't do this anymore. Like what are we doing? Like I'm not happy, and neither are you. And she just started crying, man. And she's like, we should have done this 3 years ago. And I was like, I know we should have. Why didn't we? You know, and then the next thing everybody does is once you know, you do the long goodbye. So we stay. So for
Mm.
5. So we had a 2-bedroom apartment. She stayed in her room, and I moved into my office. And it's like, you know, we did this thing. It's like half in, half out, which is what everybody does with their life and everything. It's not just relationships. And then people wonder why they're stuck. I'm not yelling at people. I'm like, it makes me emotional and passionate because I'm like, I wanted to shake the old me. Because I'm like, bro,
Mm.
it's so simple, man. Like, just love yourself. You ask me, like, you know, what's the one takeaway? It's like, dude, you're going to get out of life, and especially a relationship, whatever you feel about yourself. And so whatever you're trying to hide, or the guilt or the judgment that you, of things you have or haven't done, they are a poison, and they will kill you, and they'll kill your relationship. And it's the number one way to live a life and die of nothing but regret. And it's like,
Mm.
to think back on it, I'm like, man, it was so simple, but it was so hard. I taught this for a living, and I wouldn't accept it. People will
Mm.
Bro, people will be messaging me messages like, I was going to kill myself. I saw your video. It saved my life. You saved
Mm.
my marriage. And I would read these and I couldn't feel them, Jake. I never felt them. My ex I would tell her to read the messages to her, and she would be like, that's incredible. How do you do that? And I could never feel any of it. And then I'm
Huh.
surprised that I couldn't feel loved in my relationship, or she, or vice versa. And so it was never
Huh.
about love. It was about the hatred that we had for ourselves. And unfortunately for her and I,
Mm.
we couldn't take care of it together in a relationship. I there
Mm.
was We loved each other too much to ever really let go. And so it had
Yeah.
to come down to separating, and we both didn't want to do it, and it was incredibly hard. I think that she's definitely taken a way different route in her journey as far as that breakup is gone. But I've healed from it, and I've healed not just from it, but it was the catalyst for Marshall to heal from the love that I never had for myself, and for the respect I never had for myself. And that's what people got to understand. I say, take ownership over your life. You got to understand that good, bad, ugly, or in between, everything that's
Mm.
happening as physical reality is a catalyst for you to change. It is or it isn't. It doesn't mean it has to be. There's no right or wrong. People
Right.
hate when I say this, but God has no plan for you. Like, he just made you in his infinite wisdom. You can do whatever you do, and now he's released you. If you go and like kill a bunch of people, that's terrible in human terms, but God's not going to judge you any differently. It's just you're just it's an energy. It's like a tree or something that grows in the forest and snuffs something out and kills it. Like, is it good or bad?
Mhm.
Like, it's
Mhm.
what is it? But same time, if you go out and you're freaking, save the world and a billion people, like, God is not going to love you anymore. Like, so what I'm saying to
Mhm.
people is, the only thing that matters is to love yourself as much as what we're created, our inner true being, and that's all emotions are. Your emotions exist as a barometer to tell you how far off or how close you are to your true inner being. And so in those
Mhm.
moments, because Jake, you and I know that only thing that exists is right now. Tomorrow
Right.
never comes. The past is not real. It's only ever right now. And so
Right.
in those moments, whether you're eating a bowl of Kraft macaroni and cheese and you're like, oh, gosh, this is so satisfying, or you're falling in love, or whatever it is, like, you've got to understand that that moment, that bliss. And I'm not talking through addictions or altering your state. I'm talking
Right.
through pure, unadulterated, like that one flashing moment when you feel that. Your job as a creator is to get in the habit of being able to create that feeling over and over again until you feel like
Mm.
that more often than you don't. And so I know that for people who aren't where they want to be, I wasn't there last year. I am now. I'm getting a lot
Mhm.
closer. But once you can
Mhm.
understand that, there's no secret to life. That is your true inner being, is when you feel that. When those tingles come, that's God. That's
Mhm.
universe. That's source. That's you.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so whatever your emotion you're having, that's not that one. Look at
Yeah.
that and go, okay, well, how far away from home base am I? Oh, I'm pretty
Yeah.
off today. How do I get back here? How do I rebalance? How do I revibrate? But again, whether it's the relationship or anything in life, it's all a reflection of how you feel and think about yourself. And I
Yeah.
know it sounds super cliche, but if you guys haven't read the 4 agreements yet, mark it down, get it, or download the audiobook. The 4 agreements will very plainly explain how reality is a mirror. And there's only really 4 agreements you ever have to make with yourself. And when you make those 4 agreements, you'll find that your life changes. And it's simple, but it's not easy. You've got to be committed and willing to do it. You've got to be willing to love yourself. You got to be willing to take a chance on loving you and believing in you, and really believing that you deserve all the greatness. And the biggest reason, dude, and number one thing is judgment. and not necessarily judging other people, but self-judgment. Self-judgment is the number one killer, man. It creates, because you judge yourself. Oh, I don't have enough money. I'm not good enough. It's whatever you, again, nothing means anything other than the meaning you assign it. Plain and simple. Means nothing.
Yeah.
It's not even real.
Yeah.
I don't even know if like, I don't know if any of this is real. But the point of it is like, okay, if you knew that, if you could go, okay, am I judging myself? Where am I judging myself? And instead of choosing judgment, catch yourself and then start to create the habit of giving yourself love and kindness. Self-talk changed my life. I've been working on it for the last 4 years now. But self-talk, once you start to clear your self-talk, that's when you start to catch your thoughts. And not only that, once you get good at it, you start to catch it in everybody else's thoughts. But what you realize is it's not anybody else. That Jake is not, what we are manifesting is also manifesting us. So like Jake isn't even realizing he's manifestation in my world and vice versa. And so like if I listen to Jake and his self-talk is not good, I realize at this point, I catch it and I go, that's a reflection of me. It's a reminder of who I am, of who to be. It's not a judgment. It's just that everything is constantly, it's like the Matrix, man. It's like it's a catalyst or a mirror for you to look back and reflect to yourself. How am I feeling right now in this moment about me?
Yeah.
And once you can crack that code, man, again, we started the conversation early about, man, I feel bad for guys who are yelling at me or mad or something like this because I just know they're hurting. And I can quickly relate to that because of all this work I've been through. And so, yeah, man, like that would be my answer, dude.
Well, I think we've talked about how to manifest the life that you really want, and we said one barrier to that is basically getting rid of the hurt and dealing with the hurt. And we also talked about in relationships as well. So there seems to be a common denominator that we're coming to tonight, that self-love is really maybe the catalyst to all the good things in life, man.
Love is all there is, dude. None of this is real. Nothing matters. Love is all there is. In the end, that's it. If the universe is actually expanding, what's happening is the universe is actually being pulled back into one point. You know what that one point is? It's God. It's source energy. And what is God and source energy? It's love. It's enlightenment. And so it's like as this universe, or as this physical universe, right? Continues to expand, there'll come a time when Earth is no more, when the when the energy returns to something else. But you know what's going to always exist is the highest frequency of that energy can ever manifest or can ever experience itself, represent itself as, which is love. And so none of this matters. If you live to be 100, good job. You made it a long way. And even if you're freaking Martin Luther King, in 1,000 years, nobody's going to remember you. So what does it matter? Why do we take it so serious? You're going to die. So just what would you do? What would you paint? If you had your little cabin in the woods and you had your blank canvas and your hot mug of coffee or tea, and you had all the paints and what would you paint? What would your life be? And then understand from that conscious observer that the painter is the avatar, the brush is this person, this Marshall, Jake, Lindsay, whatever. And I know, like, again, simplified, it kind of sounds weird for those people who haven't lived or thought like this yet, but what if what I'm saying was really that simple? What if that's all it is? What if you could let go of all the angst and overwhelm and anger and mundaneness of your life, and you could just pretend for a week that maybe this is a game? There's serious consequences to it. Well, how serious? You'll just start over again. But like, you know what I mean? Like, dude, which I'm not saying to go start over. Like, don't do that. That's not how it works.
Right.
Yeah, the way that I understand it is that for when this energy comes to an end in a way that wasn't natural, and again, I know it upsets people when I say it, I don't mean to. I don't definitely ever discount what anybody's been through. But even things like disease, like the body is not meant to die of disease. It's not. Perfect health is our divine birthright. And so the way I understand it is that once that happens, in my belief system, your spirit, it kind of goes into like a little, like, you got to put the dunce cap on. You don't get to just jump right back into the game. Because your soul's got to be because it wasn't supposed to be like that. But anyways, I just don't take life so serious, man. Just if you guys are listening to all this, maybe, take some notes, maybe slow it down, re-listen to it another time when Jake gets it back up. And again, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Boom. Onward.
Yeah, good stuff. Good
subscribe.
Point.
Ring the bell. But anyways, ring the bell. But anyways, really though, because this is it. I mean, I'm no expert. Because my thoughts have been real good, but until very recently, this part has been real junky still. I haven't dared to love myself as much as I want to, and to think I'm as great as I know that I can be. And so for people that are listening to me say this and going, okay, Marshall, well, how come you don't have like a gajillion dollars and and doing all these things. Like my life is really good. One, so I'm pretty happy. But second is, that's what I'm saying. I don't know what that huge thing is. It may not be something big in public. Maybe I come up on, 100 acres here in Montana. Maybe it's a $2 million retreat center that I don't know what that huge thing is
Right,
going to
right,
be. But all I'm
right.
saying is that like, it's just that you got to get clear on what it is that you want, and then start to take care of these things and start to live into it, man. But I don't know where I was going with that.
Dude, we're definitely vibing the right way here, and I
Cool.
feel like we're very much in line with. I mean, all I really want to do, and I teach history. I like teaching history. That's cool. But like, what I really want to do, like, I just want to bring this message that you're talking about. That like, look, it's not that hard, right?
Yeah.
And we only get one crack at it. We only get one at bat, right? And if you don't take that opportunity, if you don't say, hey, here's what I really want and go for it, you're going to get to the end of your life. You know, I'm going to go Gary V on you here for a minute, and you're going
Please.
to be filled with regret, right? I mean,
100%.
the worst thing in the world is to get at the end of your life and go, man, what if I would have fill in the blank? I would have tried this. I would have tried that. And that's just a
Bro.
message, man. That's like a gospel that I feel like I want to preach to people is that like, you got to go do it, man. Whatever it is you want to do,
You
like,
have to, man. You
yeah,
have to. It's
yeah.
my dad walked out of my life when I was 2, and he wasn't really in it much after for a long time, and
Hmm.
I hated him for many years. I swear I'm not gonna cry again. But recently I've learned some stuff about my dad. We repaired. He stopped drinking because he was gonna die. He's 65 now. How old am I?
Yep.
He's 66 now, and he's been sober for about 7 years. And 7 years ago, about 4 years ago, we finally repaired our relationship. And
Mhm.
I love my dad, and I know that man has always loved me, but because of the young man and how he grew up, there's a lot of things. And so now it's like I can empathize with my dad, and it actually kind of makes me feel bad for being so mad at him for so long,
Mhm.
because I know what he went through, and I'm like, man, like when he did what he did, and my mom, and he left my mom, and not being the son, all these things that just breaks my heart for that man to know what he's been through. And so
Yeah.
now when he lives in Wisconsin, I'll go to see him, and he lives in this little apartment. He's old. He just kind of doesn't have any friends and does family, and can't drive anywhere. And he just stares out the window. And when I go see him, he kind of follows me on Facebook here and there, and he'll look out the window and he'll just talk about like this far stare, and he's like, "Man, I wish I had quit drinking years ago." He's like, "I wish I had never left your mom." He's like, "I wish I wouldn't have like lost my family." And it really breaks my heart because it's
Mm.
like that is regret, bro. Like you want to see regret, man. You should see that man's face, and you can feel the
Mm.
energy. And he doesn't cry, dude, but it's like it's just this regret that he could never change. And when you see it, and I
Mm.
hear that, and it's object, but when you see it in real life, real time, man, and you know the backstory of why that man made those decisions, which good or bad, right or wrong, those are the ones he made. And it's just like, yeah, dude, it's what you're saying. It's like people need this because
Yeah.
nobody ever talks like this. And then they
Yeah.
become Ed Gillen and they die with regret, or they, end up taking their life. And it's like, dude, it doesn't have to be that way, but you just have to be willing to try to love yourself. And in order to do that, you have to forgive yourself. People go, "Oh, I
Mm.
didn't do anything. I didn't do anything to have to forgive myself." I'm like, I know,
Mm.
dude, but just forgive yourself for being so mad. Forgive yourself for getting hurt. Like you didn't choose that. You didn't ask for that. And then once you can start to forgive, you start to understand you can forgive the other people. And once you start
Mhm.
to let go of that, we talked about in the beginning, man, that's where it all starts from. But you're absolutely right, dude. I mean, that's why we do what we do. I don't want people to kill themselves. I don't want people to die with regret. I don't want
Yeah.
same thing, both of you, that's what you're saying. Like, don't get to the end of the line and look back and wonder like, man, I should have done this, or at least tried that. Man,
Right.
you got to keep swinging, dude.
Yeah. I love it, brother. This is a
Ugh.
message. It's a message both of us are here to bring to the world. And I really appreciate you coming on with me
I
tonight.
appreciate it, bro. I appreciate you
Because,
having me, man. This was fun. I didn't know I was gonna cry so much. Sorry, guys.
man, I love it, man. I just love you being real, being you, and I love that, man. And so not only was it a great time just hanging out with you, but we're bringing just a life-giving message to people. Your life doesn't have to be the mess that you feel like it is, right? You can have whatever you want in life. Go back and watch what Marshall was talking about earlier about how to manifest the life that you really want to live. And that's the message, man. That's the message I want to bring to the world. And I know you're on it the same thing, man.
Your mess is your message, brother. Your pain is your
That's it.
purpose.
That's it.
You know it.
Well, brother,
It's
go ahead,
fun,
man.
dude. This was fun, man. Thank you for
It was a
having
lot
me.
of fun.
It's
It was a
great.
lot of fun, man.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you coming on and just sharing really amazing value with our audience tonight, and all you guys
Hey,
who hung
bro.
out with us tonight. I appreciate it. Yeah.
You're good at holding space, man. You're a good question asker. You're great at holding space. You're a great friend. You're a very intuitive and thoughtful and caring man. And I think that you're landing and doing the right thing with this show and this podcast and onward. Because this is the I mean we're just a reflection of each other. I can't give what I can't reflect, and so that's the thing, man. It's like I hope you just keep going up and up and up with the show, and I know if you stick with it, you will, because you're going to continue to reflect guests and have interviews like this because you hold that space and create that for people to do. And so, like you said, all I want to do is, well, congratulations, bro, you're doing it. Like you're doing it. So like, what's next, man? So I'm
Appreciate that.
very honored to come on here. The very kind words you shared about the show. Very honored to be the first guy back on after the reboot. And I'm always rooting for you, dude. I know you're a grown ass man, but I'm always rooting for you, bro. Like, I think you're amazing. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Appreciate you, Marshall. Appreciate all the kind words, my man. And to all of y'all
Cheers,
watching
guys.
tonight, I appreciate y'all coming on. I love you, brother. And thanks for coming on tonight.
Later, guys.
Good night, everybody.